Hey Atul, welcome to the Mashable Outreach. I think as an advertising and marketing veteran, what I have as an impending question for you derives itself out of this one statement that I've been hearing, which says that cutting down on marketing or communication budgets at this point could be futile for brands because the audiences want to know what each of these brands are doing for them. What would you like to say about this?
So, see, there's really no easy answer to that. I fully understand from where the brands are coming from. Right now, it's really about cutting costs, looking at priorities, ensuring that retrenchment is minimal as possible. So there will be advertising cuts. It's one of the first places that companies reach out to whenever there is a cost cut. I think what is important is to see the extent of these cuts, right? I think it's very important that brands somehow play a role where they're able to balance this. While yes, there will be cuts, there's no going away from it. But at the same time, it can't be to such a level where your brand is completely out of your consumer's mind. I think more so during this time, it's important for brands, and especially in certain categories which are not seasonal, right? So whether it's FMCG, whether it's consumer electronics, whether it's e-commerce, education, a lot of brands sectors right now are spending. So I think the challenge for those brands is really to maintain that balance so that they're not completely out of the consumer's mind. Some brands are smart. So if you look at brands like Amul, who have actually increased their spends during this time, so they know that this is a captive audience at this point of time. They are in a category which is everyday consumption. So they've actually gone all hog and said that it's better to invest now because you're getting more for the dollar that you spend. There's less clutter, so there's less competition. So I think it's from brand to brand. You can't expect say a hotel brand to spend right now. You can't expect an airline brand to spend right now. That would be foolish to try and tell them that no, you cannot be cutting down on communication. So I think it's not something that fits all categories, but the core categories in which which is not seasonal, which has not been hit, which is outside travel and tourism, hospitality. I think those brands, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that while April was a knee-jerk reaction and everything went down to almost zero, we are seeing that bounce back. We saw that in May. June is much better. So I think it's now a month-on-month game, but definitely the smart brands are finding that balance.
Atul, I think being specific to you with this question, you come from a space which is also as much advertising as it is venture capitalistic. So there were people, founders, co-founders, and startups which are having later stage conversations. I mean, there were for sure some which were being just considered or looked upon, but there were those which were almost on closure. And it's the same with sort of the advertising bit of the game, where we had a huge set of summer campaigns or the IPL investments which are going to happen. How do you think the pandemic impacted these sectors specifically?
So I think it's definitely delayed all decision making. That has been agnostic to industry. So whether I was looking at fintech or whether I was looking at travel or whether I was looking at education, everywhere I think there has been definitely in a majority of cases there will always be exceptions, but there's definitely been delay in decision making. There has been a deferment saying that let's see what happens, let Q1 pass. So I think there is definitely a wait and watch approach. It is not certain categories, yes, so you are not going to be investing in certain categories which is going to take a long time to bounce back. So I think if there were investment decisions around those categories, they will get pulled out. But I think otherwise on startups and early stage startups, the conversations I think will now continue. The investments will be at a slower pace. But again, I don't see it to be drastic where people were doing 10 investments will now suddenly do zero. I think the priority with fund houses, with venture cap is going to be existing companies, is going to be supporting portfolio companies, looking at what their needs are. Do they need a fresh round of support? Do they need working capital support? I think the priorities are going to change. It's not going to be so much that we need to sign so many new deals this year. I think it's going to be about consolidation. It's going to be about saying that how are we going to stabilize our existing portfolio companies.
Correct. There was also this trend that we saw recently, right, where the startups would focus more on habit building and customer acquisition, while looking at cash flows at a later stage, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, when they would sort of become a habit. And at a time like this, and this is something that you've said, is that cash flows or every dollar spent will be mapped out and will need to be accounted for the next 12 months. So, how do you then look at one, cash flows, and two, in house talent at a time like this?
I think you have to look at it very dispassionately. I think the biggest problem, and especially with Indian management, is being that we do not look at it dispassionately, and sometimes that delays decision. Our only advice to all our companies has been that don't delay a decision. It might be right or wrong, we'll discover it down the line, but don't delay a decision. So if you're deciding to let go of an office premise, if you're deciding to let go of some unprofitable client, if you're deciding to downsize, if you're deciding to look at pay cuts, whatever it is, take the call. Or if you're deciding otherwise, saying that no, you are not going to do any pay cuts for the first quarter. So whatever it is, our focus has been, decision making and quick decision making. So that is something that the faster you decide, the more runway you want to give to your own companies, to your own people, to your clients. I think that's been extremely important. And the second is communication, right? It's very important that you decide quickly and you communicate it very clearly to everybody, to your entire ecosystem. It could be your employees, it could be your investors, it could be your clients, it could be your vendors. The entire ecosystem should know that what is it that you're looking for. We are realistic. We know that there's no point right now saying that let's look at a yearly plan. So I think we are taking it quarter to quarter, but that quarter has to be deeply rooted in reality. It cannot be rooted in hope. Saying that things will change in Q2, things will change in Q3, that is going to be difficult. So I think, these 2-3 factors extremely important. Take quick decisions, root your decisions in reality, and communicate, saying that this is what you've done.
True. Tough calls, but some calls need to be taken. I think I will take that back. Tell me about this, and what I want to know about your perspective on this. There are some categories which have pivoted very clearly, taken off and done really well and known what to do, and there are some which have had to, take the tide or take the bull by its horn or downside. I don't know if there's any better way to say it, but also shut shop. And while it's sad, what do you think about these two very distinctive sort of categories at this point?
So I'll tell you, it also depends on the size of the company. So let's say that you are an early stage startup and you are currently 10, 15, 20 people. It's much easier for you to pivot, right? It's that much difficult for a company which say has 500,000 people. While it sounds very cool saying that let's pivot the business model right now, it doesn't happen like that on ground. So we've seen that. We've seen the very small companies are now looking at all avenues of generating cash. So they're not just saying that, okay, this is my core and my revenue is just going to be a no. So that's great. So people are realizing the fact that, cash generation is extremely important. The larger ones are looking at conserving cash. They know that, their business models is not going to change immediately. So they suddenly cannot pivot and look at newer sources of revenue. So for them, cash conservation is as good as revenue generation. So I think it's different from, different companies depending on the size and sectors that they are. But one thing is for sure, and we've seen this even before, even in the 2008 meltdown, we've seen that, this pushes you to innovate. This pushes you to look at things which you would not have looked at in normal circumstances. And that's happening. So people are going back, they're, renegotiating their deals with their partners. The entire ecosystem is at work, So while some of them, their clients are coming back to them and renegotiating their fees, in turn, they are going to their vendors. So I think that hustle is now at its peak. And I think that's what's really going to get through the smaller startups for the next 6 to 8 months, because this situation is not going away in a hurry. So it's not something that we're saying, okay, next 30 days and something will come and there'll be a silver bullet and everything will be fine. I think that realization has now, people have accepted that, especially in the startup community, that this is a long battle. We're talking about 12, 18 months, 2 years in some cases. So what is the best thing that you need to sustain for this period? I think the approach is more about that and not so much about, have you pivoted in the last 90 days?
There's also been, and something that's affected the tier 2, tier 3, even tier 1 set of influencers drastically are the policy decisions that the government has had to take, with the banning of the 58 before and then recently being heard about the 48, or the PUBG sort of conversation, how do you think that changes the marketing spends? And I know this, that a lot of media planners would park, and especially with these few brands that I've heard of, huge chunks of marketing budgets in or under TikTok. So, how do you think that changes the ecosystem?
Yeah. So I think those that budgets will now be available for other digital activities and other digital format. I don't see that money going into some of the larger mediums like television, radio, or outdoor. I don't see that happening, especially in this year. So, also those budgets might not get spent at all. So there might be actually a very short time, where you actually see a shrinkage of those budgets. But beyond the point, content creators have always found a way. I don't think they're dependent on a platform. Yes, the kind of speed with which TikTok grew, the kind of investments that they made, the kind of deals that they signed to get celebrities onto their platform, a lot of the Indian ones will not be able to do that, right? They will either not have the resources to that. So, so maybe the growth will be slow. But I mean, do we have other alternates for video platforms? Even if we don't have newer apps coming in, yes, we do. Do we have large content creators in platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook? Yes, we do. So I think, other than an immediate, shrink that might happen in this quarter because people had kept money for TikTok and that won't happen, which again in my mind would be about 20-25 big brands with significant investments, I'm saying. But other than that, I don't see that as a major thing which is actually going to get the sector to decrease.
I think my question is now centered to the fact that we're opening up, and we have been opening up for a while, and as an unlock 3 sort of begins, what should the agency person or the media planner as mediators tell brands and then effectively communicate it to the production houses or the agencies below to do in terms of communication, and what sort of route do these guys take now, considering that there are people who are going to be scared as they come out? They're going to be cautious, they're going to be very careful with the amount of money they put and spend. So what sort of a communication or messaging will drive sales in this coming time?
I think 2-3 things. Agency needs to be aligned to what the brand's goals are, right? They need to be aligned to both the brand goal as well as the sales goal. So it can't be in its own. They'll have to become more efficient, right? See, ultimately, whether it's an agency or it's any other startup, if you do not create efficiency for your clients during this time, you're going to lose them. It doesn't matter in which sector you are, because this is the time when clients are looking for partners who will make them more efficient, right? I mean, we as a fund house are looking at how can we be more efficient across all our companies. So today, if you are an agency, if you are a marketing partner for a brand, the only real value that you can add for them is that how is it that you can make them more efficient. Efficiency can come from buys, efficiencies can come from better content creation, efficiencies can come from smarter insights, efficiencies can come from proactive work. It can be a whole lot of things. But right now, that's the only benchmark. I think the real companies out there, the only way they're going to evaluate their marketing partners is, are you helping me be efficient? I think that's the one line everybody needs to follow. If you're able to do that, you'll see that you'll almost retain, I would say, 90% of all your clients.
Does that mean brands should then attribute sales to content directly and to get them somewhere?
See, it's very dependent on category to category, right? For example, even the best of efficiencies right now, I don't know how much it's going to help auto companies. Right, especially guys who are selling new cars. But imagine the guys who are in the second-hand car market. I think it's a huge opportunity, right? So very difficult to generalize this and saying that will great content distribution give you. But irrespective of the sector you are, you will look at more efficient ways of doing that. So, for example, if a brand had earmarked huge dollars to spend on IPL, they have saved that. So they will now look at how can they deploy it better. How is it that I can sell more cars, or how is it that I will be able to garner newer markets. So I think certain brands which are in very tough categories will pull back a lot. There are certain emerging categories, right? For example, look at sales of dishwashers, look at sales of vacuum cleaners. So a lot of brands in this space. The market is now flooded with UV disinfectant machines for your phones, for all of that. So you see a lot of new categories coming in this whole health space. Companies like Dabur and all are really launching newer products every week. If you see, their communication hasn't stopped. Their spends might have dipped, but they're creating new content. So I think it's really a mix and match depending on the category that you are. But you cannot just be quiet and say that, okay, let this pass and I will do nothing. I think we've seen the smarter brands are a lot more active. And I'm sure those 10, 15 brands, you must be consuming a lot more of them now that you were doing about 6 months back. And I think that's really the real advantage of being in a place which is not that crowded anymore in the current situation. So I think a lot of them are going to really leverage that, and that's where marketing partners can help them and really be efficient.
So what do you think an ideal reply to a brand would be if they asked you, what do I do next?
I think the one thing is you cannot stop this. You cannot stop engaging with your consumer, right? So what you do next is you keep your engagement going. If you have not engaged for some time, you better start it. If you are already doing it, you continue it. So I think that is the number one thing, that you cannot not be seen. You have to be there. You need to talk. You have to be sensitive to what's going on, right? Maybe some of the kind of communication that worked before will not work now. You'll have to keep in mind that there's physical distancing now to be kept, there are norms to be followed, there are masks to be worn, there are sanitizers to be used. Brands have to take cognizance. For example, you can't suddenly have a communication where people are partying in a lounge, right? So I think those kind of things, and brands know this. It's not rocket science, right? I mean, the smarter marketers know this. So I think right now it's extremely important that you try and reach business as usual as quickly as possible to keep your communication going. Again, I said for most sectors, yes. For some which are really badly hit, it will really be a reset button for them.
So what do you think happens to the travel, tourism and experiential market, which was on a growth path right now?
Yeah, so even travel and hospitality, right? So some of them, for example, if you look at some of our 5-star chains in India, whether it's the Taj, for example, Taj has now said that they're getting into the food delivery business, right? So while most of the 5-star chains and hotels have been delivering food, what Taj is doing is they're going a step ahead. They're saying that we are now going to be in the food delivery business. So the service in Mumbai has already started. So they're doing the entire chain. They're going to take your order. They're going to have the meals cooked. They're going to deliver. They're going to have their own app to take the deliveries. So now they're actually going and investing in this. It's a new business line, and I've seen that plans. They start with food and they've gone to ingredients and they'll go on to other Taj products, right? So for them, it's really pivoting. While that doesn't mean they're going to shut their hotel business, but this is a new form of business for them. So I think you will see such innovations coming in. Travel, as in, if you look at airlines and all, that's a long haul. For online travel agents, that's a long haul. Ultimately, demand has to pick up. So that is, that is a big battle, for players in that category. But we are seeing that, in the hospitality sector especially, we are seeing that there are pockets of innovation happening. I mean, London just opened up, and 45% of the restaurants are not going to open. I feel when India opens up, we are going to see similar numbers. It's a sector that has been hit hard. It's a sector that has got no breaks in terms of government support. So that is going to be very, very hard.
Do you think the startups which are going to acquire funds at this point may have a higher amount of scrutiny looking into their books, or may have a different sort of an approach while taking in the monies from the market?
Yes, definitely. I think the path to profitability will shrink now. So if people were given a much longer runway before, now it's not going to happen. So hypothetically, I'm saying if you had 2 years before to show that, you could be operationally profitable, you might have 1 year now. So yes, absolutely, that's going to happen, right? Every dollar is going to be looked very closely at. Business models will change. I don't think it's going to be a blind land grab anymore in most categories, right? But in certain you might see, like for example, in education, you might still see burn happening, because that's again, online education is something that people are bullish upon, and a lot of investments are coming. But overall, I feel that, the path to profitability is really going to be much shorter now.
And you think the whole policy decision with China and invest?
I think there is no, till now there's no policy decision on it. right? What has happened now is just the ban of these 59 apps. I don't think there has been any. There's extra scrutiny of investments coming in from China, but there has been no clear policy decision saying no. But yes, if that happens, it will affect. China has been investing. We know that some of our largest startups are funded by China money, but there is no policy on it yet. But if there is such a policy which says that no, Chinese companies will not be allowed to invest in India, yes, there will be a shakeout on that. It is going to be a big effect on that. So two ways, it might attract more monies from other countries into into blue chip Indian startups, or it might just grow the entire environment for a certain time. But I think there's still some time away from seeing a clear, hardcore policy decision on investments.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Atul. I think this was the point of Mashable Outreach, is that we get maximum amount of insights from businesses about businesses and how we can, sort of grow together in a post-COVID era. Before we sign out, thank you for your time. But before we sign out, would you like to have any closing messages that you would like to tell brands watching this, or media planners or advertisers watching this?
No, as I said, now is the time to keep engaged. Keep engaging with your consumer, keep engaging with your agencies, with your marketing partners. The more engaged as a brand you are, and we have seen examples of that, the more you're going to benefit in this scenario where clutter is really.
All right, this is Siddharth Alambayan signing off on Mashable Outreach. Thank you, Atul.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye.